At
Here.
Alderwoman Erickson. Here. Alderman Fridge.
Here.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Kreinbrink. Alderman Lobrandt.
Here.
Alderman Robinson is absent. And Alderman White Cotton.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. We'll move on. I'll save my mayor's report until the regular meeting. Report by our attorney, Attorney Gottschalk.
I don't have anything for this meeting.
Okay, Clerk E.
Okay, just briefly, I had emailed everyone like a water report on invoices. Jeff and I had talked about that, thought you might be interested in that. My question to the council, if you've reviewed that, is that something you are looking for monthly? Do you want additional information? As I indicated, it is a living document. It changes from minute to minute. We had 98 late notices go out. We have 55 shut-off notices that will not go out this week because of the weather.
Whatever you feel is, if it goes with the cycles for each cycle ramp?
I think coinciding with when late notices go out, that's the real eye-opener when you see how many delinquent accounts there are. Okay.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions for our clerk?
Just one. I would say something similar to what Fred's saying. I was going to suggest, it doesn't have to be as detailed. I'm more interested in knowing the quantity versus all the way down to the detail. So, thank you.
All right.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8, City Administrator Report. Jeff Petman.
I don't have anything for this meeting.
Okay, city reports. We'll start with the EMA Director, Tony Eberly.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Police report, Chief Senni.
Okay, I'm going to start with a thank you letter. I briefly talked about this the last time, but we received a thank you letter for it. Dear Sandwich Police Department, thanks for all the hard work you do to keep our Sandwich community safe. I give a huge thanks and appreciation for bringing Megan, a hands-on social worker, to the scene. Megan is a valuable asset to your force, advocating for families dealing with mental health issues. And then other thing too, the significant incidents, we assisted the drug task force in Kendall County with a search warrant in the 800 block of 6th Street. No charges have been filed yet in that particular case. They're still pending, working on that particular investigation. And we did have an increase in case assignments from the month before. We only had one the month before, and this month we had 5 of them. And then there's the summary with the school resource officer. He's still very active in the school. Actually, the school resource officer last week and this week, he's currently getting his DARE training, so he could bring that back to the school to teach later on in the spring. So he'll be certified as a DARE officer. Sergeant Meisner had 4 K-9 deployments, and then we had 7 FOIA requests for the month. Just looking over the monthly stats, one of the things that I talked about with the sergeants, and actually we had an entire department meeting today, is our domestic disturbance or domestic violence type calls. They're on the rise. They consistently are rising. So hopefully with the new detective spots, one of the notions what we're looking to do there is have the detective follow up with some additional resources. As I talked about, Safe Passage, they're a great resource for us to be able to get somebody some help so they don't become a repeat victim, or we don't have the repeated call at that particular house. Maybe it's just some help that the entire family needs. So we're really looking to that because our domestics seem to be trending up. But otherwise, when you look over the in particular monthly stats, the officers are doing a great job as usual. They continue to work hard on a month-end basis. And then just the calls for service or the times for the calls of service are in there. Again, very overall consistent with each in particular day. Wednesday seemed to be heavy for Wednesday and Friday were heavy for this past month. And then we had 1,957 instances last month that we worked on, and the vast majority of those again are proactive with the officers taking initiative, being out on their stationary patrols, directed patrols, traffic stops, business checks, foot patrols. So again, a great job by the officers for what they're doing. The next meeting I'll discuss our annual report. We did, as I said, we did have a yearly meeting prior to coming here, and I just want to highlight the yearly award winners that we had. So I want to just highlight Officer French, and at the time he was Officer Meisner, now he's obviously Sergeant Meisner, for the call in which they responded to a domestic battery disturbance where they took custody of an individual who potentially was later charged with attempted arson, where he had a kid in the house at the time. I had read that back in March to you guys, but wanted to just highlight that great work by them. And also highlighted the following officers for some outstanding work for them. Sergeant Meisner, Sergeant Whitecotton, Sergeant Fosnot, and then Officer Keith Rominski, and also Officer Eric Bright for the amount of work that they did last year in field training. We actually had 7 officers that went through field training in 2024. So just kind of keep an open mind. That's almost half the department was in field training last year. So just an outstanding job to those officers in the program. Each one of them had a vital role in the training of each of those officers. We currently still do have one officer in field training, Officer Lunstein. He is got roughly 3 weeks left. He's doing fine. And then just a quick update, our background for our lateral, he has one more test to do, which he's doing next week. He has to go for a psychological test, and then after that, we'll see where that takes us with him. Our detective spot, kind of been talking about that. Our interviews are actually set for tomorrow, so hopefully in the next couple weeks here, we'll have a detective identified, and we can start, as I talked about before, a part-time basis, working him in some cases during the shift or carving out some time for him to be there. The other thing too, just kind of forward thinking, we have reserved 2 spots in the May Police Academy and then 2 spots in the September Police Academy. I think those are great for us to be able to have things, since sometimes things change. We at least have those spots ready for us should we need those spots. They're ready for us. Doesn't necessarily mean that we fill them. And if we don't fill them, they seem to always fill their spots anyway. So for the remainder of the year, we have those 2 spots again, the May spot and then it's the September spot. Reminder to the community about our webpage, great amount of resources there. And then also the public dashboard, great amount of resources there. And then lastly, again, thank the officers for the work that they do every single day.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Spenny?
Yeah, Chief, I was curious, what exactly is strangulation training?
So strangulation training, so they basically, the safe passage comes in there and they give pointers of things for the officers to look for, because a lot of times a victim can say that they were strangled and there's not visible signs of that right off the bat. And then also sometimes there's defense mechanisms to those in particular things. If somebody's being a victim of being strangled, a lot of times the offender will have scratches on their hands because of the fighting that the person is doing. And unfortunately, some of that time is the offender then will say that they're the victim of that in particular case. And sometimes there may not be an arrest that happens as a result of that, because we end up having conflicting statements. But also the fact it also shows for officers to look for a couple days later to help their cases, because there'll be bruising that will show up a couple days later on those in particular things. So it really is more to educate them on other things to look for.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions? Right. Engineering report, Kurt Detman.
All right, some updates. Main Street improvements, plans been out to bid opening coming up on March 8th. So we're looking forward to that here in the upcoming weeks. Downtown street lighting project, we're still waiting on the grant. Not surprised, takes a long time for these things to get. Oh, I guess just didn't get it updated. Just found out, I guess. Did not get the grant, I guess. We'll have to see where that goes with the utility dynamics with the bid for the lighting project then, I guess, as we move forward with that. The GIS updates are progressing along. Got the city set up with their own Esri accounts, coordinate that with staff to make sure we got the right accounts, and working on finalizing some of those updates with the GIS utility systems as we move forward, getting staff all prepared. Staff is definitely very excited to use something that they haven't been able to fully utilize. Pratt Road Bridge replacement project. IDOT has recently confirmed that the PDR, which is the preliminary development review, has been approved. Waiting on the final paperwork, but they have said it's approved, so HLR is moving forward with the land acquisition portion of that project. So that's all I have right now.
Okay, questions for engineering? Kurt?
Yeah. Question I have regarding Main Street Pratt Bridge or anything else we have going on. So we don't end up with another Latham Street issue, are you reviewing the engineering on proposed projects in the city?
So Main Street, very heavily, we've gone through a lot of review on that and confirmed with city staff and with HLR to make sure that the design is exactly what needs to be done. Pratt Road Bridge, we have gone through and confirmed right-of-ways, where the limits of that, it's a little more defined to just the bridge, but definitely went through that as well.
Okay.
Other
Adam?
questions? Yeah, Bill.
I looked through that agreement though, and they can charge more if it goes beyond the scheduled finish date, the way I read it,
For,
Main Street.
you talk about for the construction?
Yeah, for the engineering cost of it.
It's the same
IDOT.
terms as Latham, same
Yeah.
terms as Latham Street. I mean, it's an IDOT contract.
I just
I don't
want to
think
be
we can
aware
remove
that
it.
that's in there.
Yeah, when I called IDOT, they said the same thing applies to them when they do a project, just like it does a municipality. Okay, other questions? All right, moving on to council reports. Alderman Arnett.
The guys were just obviously out doing snow this week, so they're doing maintenance on the vehicles right now. There's not a lot going on. The street signs for Fairwinds, they'll be putting in as things thaw. And I just want to say thank you to the guys, the streets department. I think they did a great job this week, so.
I do too. Thank you. All right, Alderwoman Erickson.
I agree with Adam on that. First off, the city did a great job with the snow plowing. Second off, I wanted to find out, do we know when, I think is that on Hall Street, is that Midwest Concrete? Is that what's over there? Who's over there that's going to be moving down to Third?
Yeah,
It's
that's
Midwest
Midwest
Okay.
Concrete.
Do we have a projected time that they're going to be moving? And the reason I'm asking is because the trucks are still flying down Hall Street, and there's two other places besides the one that came in here and talked about it before, that have gotten a hold of me that now they have cracks in their basement from the foundation, from those trucks going in and out, and it's like three right together. So they're too heavy to be going back there, and we've even put stuff out there. So, I mean, what are we gonna do about this? We gotta get these guys out of there to go down to Third.
Last time we did had the police come out there and do a little more patrol of traffic on that. Regards to the fact that one property affected another, that is a civil issue between the two landowners. Wouldn't involve the city, unfortunately, but they take it up themselves.
Why can't we put a chain across that dead-end street?
Exactly. There's
Lock
no-
it
Well, I believe they have a right of way in this street.
No, they
No,
don't.
they don't. We have that.
To Hall?
Yeah, the attorney went through the whole process of correcting the survey, remember?
Well, they still have a right to the road. They have a right of way through it. They corrected our access.
I mean, part of it like butts up to their property, right?
The back of it, yeah.
So, I mean, I know we talked about the routes. I mean, that was the other thing. We didn't do that, right? We didn't put in place a truck route, and so I don't know, I can't recall right now what the rules are for that road, if they're allowed or not. But I don't think we can't just put up a chain.
I rode around town and every dead-end street except one has either post or chains across it. They're blacked off, every one except one.
Well, two now, because that
Yeah,
one's not, yeah.
True.
Yeah, but I think if you did that street, it wouldn't be where you want it to be. It'd be at the end of that, more down by our lift station.
Okay, but they're gonna keep doing it.
Yep.
I hear what you're saying. We fixed the Scribner's error in the
Right.
original agreement. We didn't do anything other than that. We didn't pass anything about truck limitations or anything else, so. Nor have we placed restrictions on the use of that street or the access to it.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Fritsch?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Johnson?
I have Finance Committee notes that I will be giving for the next meeting before we vote. But I just want to say to everybody out there with the cold, remember your elderly neighbors. We have a lot of them. And thank you to the people who have been clearing driveways on their own time, but also for our residents to shovel your sidewalks, please, our beautiful new sidewalks, because kids walk them, and if you don't shovel them, there's problems. So that's all right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Krantbrink,
Nothing this evening, sir.
Alderman Littlebrandt,
Nothing to see me, thank you.
Alderman Whitecotton.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, whole business. Tonight, the developers of Phase 4 Fairwind are here tonight to give a presentation with their legal counsel. They'd like to go through a little bit about the development, just to kind of update from what you received at the last meeting. So Jeff will get that up. They'll like to just give you a couple updates and let you know what they're proposing, and then it'll be back to you in March to vote on.
Good evening, my name is Rick Williams. I'm an attorney with... There we go, I'll start over. My name is Rick Williams. I'm an attorney with Griffin, Williams, McMahon, and Walsh. I represent Phase 4 FW LLC, the developer of the subject property. With me tonight is Patrick Winiger, one of the principals of Phase 4. Did I just ask to advance?
You just say next slide.
Next,
Jeff
okay. I want to point out who our partner is on this project, and that's Ryan Holmes. Ryan Holmes has completed their construction activities in Fairwinds and is excited to be back and bring their product to town. Next slide, please. So as you may recall, this project was approved back in 2003, and then with the crash in the real estate market, it kind of came to a close, and Phase 4 remained undeveloped, although it was approved pursuant to an annexation agreement many years ago. We have purchased this property and are planning on implementing the previously approved plan, which is for 58 single-family lots. We are not deviating from the previously approved plans. It is exactly as what you approved back in 2003. Ryan Holmes completed Phase 3, and they will be moving in a similar product, actually the same product with 2 new additional elevations, which we'll go over in a minute, to this project. So they're a known commodity to the city and have been successful. I think it was one of the most successful, at least from a timescale perspective, developments in DeKalb County. We will connect to the existing utilities. We will be installing public improvements, sewer, water, curb, gutter, etc. As part of our agreement with the city, we are going to mill and overlay Oak Bend Road from Southwind Drive into Phase 4. And we are working with the Fairwinds HOA to become a member of that association, a dues-paying member, and to help address the pond that is at the southeast corner of the development. If you could go to the next slide, please. Here on the screen, you have the previous plat for the property. It is it's the bold line at the southwest corner. Again, that's 58 lots. As you can see from this plat, it's the exact same lot size, lays out perfectly. And then the pond that we're talking about is Lot C in the southeast corner. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, our building elevations are going to be consistent with what you've seen before. We have 2 new additional plans, the Paxton Ranch, which is a demanded product, and then the Leland, which is a 2-story plan. We will be offering, or I should say Ryan Holmes will be offering a 3-car garage product. 2 is standard, but the option for 3. There will be other architectural amenities, including rear covered porches, extended porches, and then brick elevations. Next slide, please. So this slide just details the square footage of the starting square footage of the homes that will be constructed. The name on the left, for instance, Allegheny, that is the Phase 3 name of the now Amesbury product in Phase 4, just a cross-reference to what we're doing. Next slide, please. Here you will see the elevations of what is proposed. You can see there's architectural features, dormers, gabled roofs, windows in the garages, some brick features. So a very nice, attractive product, again, consistent with what has been done in the past. Next slide, please. Here's 3 additional elevations of a 2-story model. Next slide, please. I guess that's it. We have been working with the city for some time on a development agreement, and I know there was some talk about it at your last meeting. We had a meeting with staff at 5 o'clock that lasted almost 2 hours, and we are very close to finalizing the terms of the agreement. It's a lot to go over. I think we're planning on doing that at the next meeting after you've had an opportunity to review the development agreement. We're not in final form. I'm going to pass out where we are now. And the plan would be, as we finalize some language with engineering and legal, to send a red line hopefully by the end of the week or early next week. So if you don't mind, I'd like to pass this out now if there's any objection.
Please do. This will also include any of the impact fees that we'll have.
But they're not right.
I know, I'm just, yeah, those are not the final fees. Those are just simply indicating that we'll make sure that the fire department, the library, the schools, of course, we would typically capture for them. So don't get hung up on the numbers. It just lets you know who's the recipient. So this is only on the committee of the whole. You won't see it till next month to vote on, so it won't come in the following meeting. So if you do have questions, this will be your opportunity. We do know that you need some time to read through that, so certainly you can formulate those and send those in to the administrator, and he can send those off to the developer or the developer's attorney. Rick, anything else you want to add? Or Pat?
No, I thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions you might have. The goal would be that we hopefully finalize this at your March 3rd meeting. We would really like to break ground April 1st, weather permitting.
I just have one
Sure.
small comment, really. It's not that much of a question. It was Ryan that did the last building. Yes. Just the last time we built in that area, I know I was getting a lot of emails and calls and complaints about busted sidewalk, busted concrete, and they felt like we left them. So I just want to have confirmation of a walkthrough, or who's going to be doing that? Is our engineer responsible for that, or are you guys?
So one of the suggestions that we are willing to do is that we have a pre-construction meeting with your engineer and other staff members that you want present to just assess the state of the project, and then to make sure we address things. As we are going through the project, we certainly are going to be cognizant and mindful of any impact on the residents. You'll see in the agreement we address building hours, we'll keep the site clean. You know, we want to be good neighbors. We want this to be successful.
Thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I received a lot of calls about repeated starting hours, things of that nature. So if you could just make sure, it was addressed at the time, but it kept happening. And I know it was happening because I saw footage of it happening, so.
So one of the benefits you have is this guy is going to be doing the earthwork. So, you know, he's up here before you tonight. He's going to be on the ground and will be able to address issues in real time. We're not hiring a third party. We're the guys doing the work. So thank you for that.
One thing I'd like to ask, and same thing I asked at last city council, is, obviously I haven't read this yet, but I was able to meet with you guys the other day and we had a great conversation. Any final draft of the agreement, please send it to city council before it goes to the attorney, because we're not into paying extra fees for something that we know isn't gonna pass to begin with. So just send it to us and let us read it first.
Actually, you can send it to me first. or the administrator, then we'll make sure it's sent out to everybody as needed.
Yeah, I want to be mindful of the Open Meetings Act, so we'll coordinate a way where everybody gets it as soon as possible. And we'll be sending you a red line to what you're seeing here today, so you'll know what changes we've made.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
They have a water pressure issue out there right now. You guys feel confident that you're not gonna make it worse?
Yeah, so we've talked to your engineer about this. The pressures meet the minimum standards now, and the 58 homes will not affect that at all. It'll be the same pressure that we have. So we're fine with the pressures that we'll have.
I guess that's a problem, because we need to fix that. I mean, I don't know, it's 28 pounds, not enough pressure? So it's something we'll be discussing about how to improve that.
Sure, and we understand that's a concern with the pressure. What we're saying is, we're not going to make the pressure worse for the existing residents. We're gonna have the same pressure they have, which may not be ideal, but does meet minimum standards. We understand there's a larger conversation that the city is having on how do you increase the water pressure, not just in phase 4 or actually Fairwinds, but a larger area. So, we will certainly cooperate to the extent we can with the city to alleviate any concerns there, but we
I'm sure that
recognize.
the infrastructure and pipe size will make a difference, so. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay.
Thank you for your
so the-
time.
Yep, so the next steps are is that they'll be working with the engineer, the attorney to finalize their plans. Council will get the final document in March, and then you can review it. It'll be up for approval at its earliest convenience and preparation. So,
Thank you.
great. Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to 11, Old Business B. This is discussion about the service lines as they relate to lead service line replacement. So last time there was a conversation about that. Floor is back up, open to council. So there was a couple concerns about that as the process, and then it was how it would be affordable or the city would go about doing its business to replace those. So floor is open for council for any comments or thoughts that you had from the last meeting about the lead service process.
Yeah, I actually have a price, updated price from Brian Vogel regarding the anticipated cost being $6,900 per hookup, but that's with the contractor using our stone, our fittings, and outside plumber. Before we make any decision on costs at all, we need an entire total cost, because we don't know what the plumber's gonna cost, we don't know what the stone's gonna cost us, we don't know what the fittings are going to cost us. So we need something for council as a big picture.
Well, we won't have that till the study's done, right? We won't know the total lines until that's completed. You think that's what you're
Any
looking for?
contractor should know what it takes to get a pipe into that house.
I'm not talking about the pipe. Are you asking me like how many lines we'd have to replace in the
49,
entirety?
we already know the number. We want to know as council per line what it's going to cost to get it into that house. Right now, the cost that I have is just a small breakdown. It's not a total cost because it gives the contractor cost of $6,900 if he uses our stone, if he uses our fittings, and hires a plumber to do the connection on each end. So what's the plumber costing? What's the gravel costing? What are the fittings costing? We need a total cost.
So you said Brian gave you those numbers?
Yeah, Brian emailed it to me.
Oh, it's interesting. I'm his boss. I asked him for that myself and didn't get it, so.
Well, that's like you asking for the development agreement when we gotta pass it.
What do you mean asking for it? You had it in a rough draft the first time.
Well,
That's how it works.
they can send
Get
it to us too.
Get a rough draft, you get a presentation, you get a chance to comment, we finalize the agreement, and it comes back before you for a vote. It's not my first annexation. I understand how it works.
I would just try and save them money and send it to us.
Well, I get that, but it also has to make sure that it's legally sound before we vote on it. Wouldn't that be correct?
I'll tell you what, keep sending stuff to Cassandra and having us say no and costing them money and see how it goes. It's not gonna
Adam,
go
he has
well.
ethical obligations, okay? The city is represented. So he can't send stuff to you because that would be a violation of the
We are
attorney's.
part of the city, last I checked.
What? Right. So if if someone is represented, an attorney cannot speak to that person.
Patrick can send it to us, Matt can send it to us.
And you can talk to them about that.
I mean, I'm trying to save everybody in this city money. Because every time something goes past us and straight to you, it costs money. And if there's something in it we don't like, we're gonna come back here and say no. And then it's gonna go back to you for more money and come back to us and back to you. And it's gonna take them more time to get the project done. Wouldn't it be quicker and easier to just send it to us and be done with it?
Well, but the thing is, like with this, I'm the one that prepared a draft and asked for Rick to make comments to.
Okay,
And so, I
I'll
mean,
tell you right now, a lot of the comments in there were from me sitting down with Pat and Matt the other day.
no, I'm talking about the very first one.
Well, the very first one you brought to us, that I tore apart at council, and you sat there and said, well, I just wanted to bring something I'd hope we could put in front of you and pass, and half of it was blank.
No.
That's exactly the comment
I
that was
said
made.
it was a rough draft. I never
was on
once said
there
it was to
for
be
committee of the whole, and it was on
passed.
there to vote on.
It was, but I never said that it was ready to be passed.
All I'm trying to do, and all that everybody up here is trying to do, is save them money. And that's all we're trying to do.
And I'm trying to make sure that the city is protected.
What do you think we're trying to do?
Okay, but I have to make sure that we're in compliance with laws too, right? Like, I'm not just doing it for no reason.
I understand that, and at no point in sitting down with Pat and Matt did we put anything in here against the law. We took out the fact that the final lift was not in the bond. Okay, that's not hard. We talked about putting in writing that they were gonna help the HOA with the pond that they were going to affect. They did that. Everything I sat and asked them to do, was costing them $0. And it was expediting everything for the city council to move forward with this. It was exact same things I brought up at the last city council, where you were sitting here saying, let's just see if we can get this passed, when it was half blank.
Adam, just so you know.
That absolutely never
just so you
happened.
know,
I never
you-
said that we should
You
pass
don't
it.
negotiate for the city, just so you're aware of that.
First off,
I don't mind you meeting with the developer, but your role as an alderman is not to negotiate with the developer. That is not the purpose of an alderman in a corporate body, just so you're aware of
everybody
that.
sat here and listened to the same exact questions that I asked them. So at any point at last city council, someone should have said, that question was out of line, that question was out of line, that question was out of line. Every single question that I sat and asked them were the same
No,
exact
I don't have a
questions.
problem with you asking them questions, that's why they're here. I'm just saying to go off on your own and to negotiate with them is not the role of an alderman. It's the role of the city. The city is represented by myself,
And I
the
also
administrator,
asked,
the attorney, the engineer. We had a 2-hour meeting before we came to the meeting tonight. That's how that works, right? We go through a
Okay.
process that all the experts are there. I'm not the expert, right? But our legal's there and our engineer's there to review.
okay, let's talk about experts, because I emailed our expert earlier regarding the engineering, asking if the engineering had been looked at and was approved by our engineer. And I received that they have not received or reviewed any engineering plans for Phase 4. So where's the professionality in that?
So that was tonight's meeting to review about what plans we
But-
had from the original design of the development to what we need now and what must be filed.
So when this project is brought to us in November or whenever, we wouldn't think to take the engineering plans and send them to our engineer, who was supposed to be our back, to make
Okay,
sure the city is covered.
So we
and
don't
say,
take
"Could you
them,
look
the
at these plans?"
developer, we don't take them, the developer sends those, right? And there were some discussions about which plans were acceptable or not from the previous development. That's how that works, right? It's a
I-
longer process than you're trying to make it sound like. We don't have like one meeting, you know, we attack the developer here because we want to bring it on.
First off, I'm not trying to
we
attack
vote.
anybody. I quite like the guys.
That was last meeting. You can watch the video. You can just see, I think your demeanor was a little off.
Okay, then let's.
So
let's
that's how the
watch video,
process works.
'cause-
So tonight was to bring them back after we had some preliminary discussion and work to finalize a document so it can be prepared and brought before council. That's
Then
how it
let's
works.
watch the video. We'll watch it together and have a beer, because in that video,
Well, I don't think we'll have a beer
Cassandra
together,
says,
that's okay.
I just hope to bring something in front of you that we could get passed. Because we
Well,
can
what'll
both,
be
we can
coming
both
for
sit and watch a
council will
video.
be something that you can pass. That doesn't do any good for one alderman to be negotiating with developer when the rest of the other 7 can't.
Can I
Right,
interject?
Well, I happen to have a
One,
phone and I
one little
talk to them
thing
all.
here, one little thing here. On behalf of everyone who lives in Fairwinds, Adam is so involved, and he is their advocate. Like, I can sit in a meeting, I don't understand all of the details that he would understand, so they want him there, they want him involved. They're his constituents.
They may want him here, but that's not how it works in the development
So you
process.
couldn't have had him in that meeting with you guys tonight from 5 to 7? Would that have been against the rules?
Apparently, he'd already met with them at 4:30 that nobody knew about. So I think it's kind of hard to have him in a meeting at 5 o'clock if I didn't know that he was meeting.
Although I had asked him, hey, I had previously asked, let's sit down.
Asked who?
I asked at last council. I asked to be part of any discussion we're going to have.
Yeah, but you've already
regarding
met
this.
with the homeowners association. You've already met the developer on your own, have you not?
I met with the
Is that correct?
developer last.
Adam, is that
Friday.
correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you did meet with them. We had a meeting with all the city staff, which is how our development works, right? Kurt's there, Kurt answers questions. He talked with Pat, they went through all the agreement. They agreed to the documents that we need, what we need for the Illinois EPA. Their attorney talks with our attorney, we discuss things on the legalities of it. Now, we talk about what has to be completed, what was wrong with the original language that may need to be updated from that point in time. It was a 2003 development. That's what all takes place, right? It doesn't take 8 people to meet there. This is how it typically works for development.
I'm not
We
asking
did
for 8
that.
people to meet.
We did that. That's how that works.
We are coming from a place of, we know a lot of things have been screwed up out there.
Like
And
what?
that was before we were on this board, and now that we're here, we want to be involved. We
And
want to
that's-
have a voice for the people who have feel,
Okay, but you are
had
involved. But I think
problems.
sometimes you feel like your job as alderman is maybe a little farther than it needs to be. There's nothing wrong with asking questions and trying to understand what's coming before you. But to go meet off with other people without anybody else knowing, that's not the role of the alderman, right? Yours is look at information and to vote.
First
It's not
off,
to
they called me.
negotiate, it's not to talk about what a size of a pipe should be. That's why we have an engineering firm.
Okay,
Because
when
then
was
they're
the
on the
project
record
brought
when we're
about?
done.
I guess the other thing is that is why I brought the draft, right? Is so you guys could have input on the draft, because I didn't want to just bring a final document and say, approve it now. It was something to consider. And so I feel like you would be more upset if we came today and said, I want you to approve this agreement without you ever having seen it. Wouldn't that be accurate?
That's pretty much about what we get when we get it, as late as we get it, to approve it on Monday.
This we just, well, and that's, I
So
can't
what
be
I'm
part
saying,
of that.
where I'm going back to is the whole engineer thing, is the reason we have an engineer is to look at this and look at that. But when I get something saying, I have not received or reviewed engineering plans for phase 4, yet,
You say he, you're referring to Kurt?
what's
Your-
that?
Your email, you're
Correct.
referring to Kurt?
Yes.
And
And
I'll
this
just
project has
add-
been ongoing, and the city has no engineering plans they could have sent him?
No, and I guess that was the thing and part of the meeting. There was a misconception and miscommunication in what was asked for, what was provided between the developer and between Kurt and between what I knew. And so that's why we met today, is to clear all that stuff up. And we got
So-
that all figured out because the words that were being used were, I was saying we needed something approved. Rick was thinking that it needed to be something approved here, but it needed to be signed off on by Kurt in the plans. So it was misconceptions and miscommunications
So what you're
is
gonna
what
tell,
was happening.
you're telling me is Kurt is going to sign off, stating that he has reviewed and agrees with the plans.
No, because he hasn't seen those yet, Adam, which was the nice
I
meeting.
asked,
so we
is
could-
he going
Yes.
to?
Yeah, that's his responsibility for our engineer. When he gets everything that he needs, he reviews them and signs off. When he signs off, and then I sign an Illinois EPA permit that the developer submits to me that I won't sign until Kurt tells me that it's ready to go. And the attorney tells me that it's ready to go.
Well, and that was another part of the issue, was that they weren't understanding what Kurt wanted. And so we got that cleared
Well,
up.
They sat in the same room.
Yeah,
Right,
and
the
so-
back and forth
and
email
so
doesn't always work.
Now everyone got on the same page, and this is the closest. There's a couple things that do need to be changed in the version that Rick handed out to you, based on our discussion. I will note that a couple of the fees on there are not accurate, because that is a permit from 2021. It's like
We're
a
still
sample.
negotiating it tonight.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's why
but,
they're not accurate, is because it was a draft. The draft still had to be negotiated. We reviewed multiple ordinances that we had, and we finalized that with them this evening, and they believe, and we believe that we came to pretty close to an agreement on all of those, subject to the draft coming to everybody, and then it should be finalized.
can I ask, knowing that we're invested, this is our ward, knowing his expertise, that he be included on these meetings? so that he
This
can,
was, I will be honest, this was a very last minute put together meeting because I realized that there was
That's
a lot
fine.
of
Going forward.
miscommunication.
is it, I mean, is he allowed to be there? I mean, is there some reason he wouldn't be able to be there?
No, but he'd already met with them in the day, so.
My point is going forward. Can he be
Yeah,
a
if
part
he
of
adds
these
value
meetings?
to it, but I mean,
If I add value to it, I mean, you're gonna sit there and say, I mean, essentially you're downplaying who I am and what I do, if I add value to something.
okay, I find it a little disrespectful for you not to communicate with anybody else and go off and meet with the developer on your own.
First
when
off,
that's the city's role.
they called me. It's not like I put a flag up and said, hey, I'm coming to meet with you, or I'm not passing this. Matt called me and asked if we could talk.
And I would have said, I would prefer you meet with the city staff. That's how it works. And
I've got nothing to hide with these
the
guys.
fees aren't finalized is because, just so all of you know, if this is your first development, they're negotiable, right? So that's how that works, is we sit in the back room, we go through all the fees, we talk about costs, we talk about things that should be included in the agreement, and then it comes to you. That's how it works. Okay, this is not my first one, okay? So I know how this works. This is probably my.
And I
fifth or
guess that's
sixth with
what
the
we
city.
did, is we sat and we negotiated.
Who?
You just said it's all negotiable.
Yes.
And all
So
we
they
did
come to you with the
is sit in their
preliminary,
office
you
and
get a chance to
negotiate.
read about it, you give them comment, they come and bring another draft. We look at the original agreement, we look at what the city's requirements are now, and we have a conversation about that.
I mean, we can drag this dog out as long as you want.
How about we do this? How about going forward, when we have developments in people's wards, those aldermen or women can be involved in it?
That'd be a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
If there's
he's
3 people there.
If there's 3 people.
Okay, so one.
Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, what's the, is this really a big deal? Like, I mean, and I'm saying big deal for them, not you. Like, why can't you be involved? You're so invested in this. I love it. I love that you're so invested in this for us because I know nothing
I'm
about
not saying that he
this.
can't be involved, but to me, outside of the normal process is not beneficial. If
Okay.
he has a side conversation with them that the city is not privy to, nor the other 7 aldermen, how is that beneficial?
Actually, the other aldermen, I've been making phone calls regarding everything we'd spoken about. Because all we spoke about was what I spoke about at last city council. Nothing more, nothing less.
So we had a productive meeting tonight, and I believe you'll have a document before you next time that you can review, decide if you want to approve it or not. That's it.
Okay, 49 lead lines. I want to make sure I'm clear. Are we proposing that the city pays to have them?
Okay, so you'd like to move on to.
That's
back
where
to
we're
the-
at.
that's
lead
where
lines.
we're
Yeah,
at.
so the 49 is not the final report. The 49 are the ones that we've either identified ourselves, and there may be some follow-up, right? So the final report will come to you. It's through a grant, right? So there has to be a final report submitted to council about the lead service lines. It'll have the final amount that's verified. The 49 will be a little different because when you do the Main Street project, that will include some replacements of those lines because we have to, because we open up the road. So that 49 could be 43.
But that's at no cost to the homeowners, right?
That is up for you to decide. We haven't
That's
decided.
what
yet. That's
you
was up
guys
for
need to
discussion,
talk about.
And no one said anything. That's what I'm talking about. The council needs to be involved in the conversation about where you want to go with this. So I gave you options last time, Bill. The options are the city pays for all the service replacements on private property. The homeowner pays for all the service line replacements of those lead lines on private property. You have a split. The split's whatever you decide. The other part of that is whether or not you want to, if they pay a cost or we pay a cost, who pays for it and when? You could have a loan program you provided them, whether it's interest-free or not. It could be part of you putting it onto their bill and leaning their home. You have to decide that. That is not set by the government about how that happens. It's just, you do have to identify who pays for it. So that's the process that we're going through, right? So we started that conversation.
Of the city
Paying for
paying
all
for
of it?
yes.
For all 40?
Compared to $2 million for a booster pump for Fairwinds, it's not that much money.
Well,
If we're spending money for them, why aren't we doing it for the other people?
we'll likely implement.
Yeah, so the report will come to us, but in the meantime, we're having a conversation about how that would be financed, right? Report comes, we figure out how it works, and then the program takes place. We have to put some of those into the budget. We have to figure out the time of how much you want to put into the budget each and every year. You know, $500,000 probably isn't feasible in 1 year for the way our budget's looking for the other projects that we have. And we have a 10-year compliance timeframe that we have to submit back to the Illinois EPA about the mitigation plan and how it will be funded.
Okay, well, I'm in favor of the city doing it over 10 years.
Okay?
I would actually like to see the cost of the line replacement. I mean, right now, we're asking to make a decision on cost, and we don't even know the cost.
And, I mean, that's a good idea. I will say that average is, I think people are saying about 10,000 a line.
10 to 15 is what we've heard.
I mean, that's the average. So I guess.
Depends on who does it and what community it's in, but, I mean, depending how long, I mean, if the line runs across the street and it runs on, you know, on by the sidewalk, then it's a longer run, obviously.
Yeah, you're
And
gonna
that's
have
the whole thing,
lines.
is I don't think you're gonna have an individual number for every one, but for a budget purpose, we're probably talking 10 to 12 apiece for each one, if you're gonna do the whole thing, is my understanding of it. And if we do that, you know, if we budget 7 or 8 a year, I mean, it's gonna be over $500,000 over 10 years at a minimum, if we do them all. And that's really where we have to seriously look at this and say, okay, where are we gonna come up with the dollars for this? Because yes, it might be something we can do, you know, $75,000 or $80,000 a year and try and knock out 7 or 8 of them. That would be wonderful. But the thing is, you know, if we do apply for grant money, and we're awarded grant money, then we would pay for the whole thing. We wouldn't split it. The risk would be is if we did have some where we split it up front, and then we did get funding, then the ones going forward would be 100%, not necessarily the ones going backwards. So it's one of those tricky things that, again, it's just like the wastewater treatment plant. These are mandates. These are things that we don't have a choice but to do. We have to do it. Whether it's shared between the city and a homeowner, or the city's gonna pay for the whole thing, or we're gonna do a low-interest loan, whatever it is, we have to do it. We're being mandated to do it. And that's the trick with all this. With the wastewater treatment plant, with all these other things that we have to do with our utilities, we are required to do those. It's not, nobody wants to spend $14 million on a wastewater treatment plant, but that's what it costs. And I think that that's the reality of this, is we need to look very closely, figure out, okay, how do we do this? Because, okay, where do we get that $500,000? Are we gonna raise a water rate to cover that cost for the 50 homes that need to do it and have everybody else chip in? Or where are we gonna get it? I mean, right now, property taxes, half of it, if we go through the budget, half of it goes to our police pension fund. So, I mean, we don't have the dollars to be able to just throw them around. We need to be strategic about this. We need to figure out what's fair for our residents. We need to make sure that we have a good plan going forward.
That's what I'm talking about, not throwing dollars around. So we know that if water main's on the opposite side of the street, we're not gonna open cut the street, we're gonna bore across and pull it through. We should be able to come up with a cost per home, because we know where they're at, we know which ones they are. It should be pretty easy to come up with. This one's gonna cost this, 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 this. We need to come down to a dollar amount it's going to cost us. We can't have a ballpark, it's gonna cost about this. It's fair for us to look at them and say, this is going to be the cost. And then at that point, we're going to decide how and who's gonna pay for it. I don't wanna see just a.
Well, I guess the one thing is, the way our code is worded right now is that anything that needs to be done on the homeowner side is their responsibility. So that's the way it is right now. So the question is, do you want to change that? If you want to provide them some sort of relief or pitch in or something like that. So, I mean, if something happens and it has to be done, if they would either owe the city or have to try to find a way to fix it themselves.
Or the homeowner can sign the waiver.
Fred?
Yeah.
There is an option to do that, yes. The homeowner can sign a waiver, but then they're going to have to disclose it when they go to sell their home.
Correct.
And someone's got to fix that. because
Somebody's
they
gonna have
won't
to do
let
it.
exist. Okay, so last meeting, you
Mayor,
asked me
I
several
have-
questions. Oh,
Can I ask another
no, I'm
question?
going to take
Sorry.
the floor back because
Okay.
you're supposed to ask for the floor under
I
Robert's Rules
I
of
raised
Order.
my hand a couple times, sorry.
Hold on, Fred.
No.
So you asked me a couple questions last time. So Mr. Vogel's on vacation, including today, so I did not bother him. I did send him an email that said, please provide the following information per the council's request. Verifying the number of lines, how many that we would have to improve when we did Main Street, what the cost would be, if he estimated what we do it in-house to get us that number. That was your question, if we did it by our own staff. What he estimates it will cost if somebody externally did that. I also asked him to talk to his water group about what other municipalities are doing and how they're financing this and what they're doing with their residents. And he should have that for you at the next council meeting. So although this needs to be decided, there is plenty of time to come up with a reasonable plan. And part of that needs to also be incorporated into our budget. It's just now where I'm gonna turn it forward for Fred, whether it's budget or not.
We're just in the preliminary budgeting process, but I did have a question. This report that EEI put together back for us in April of last year was pretty comprehensive. So are we now down to only 39 known lead lines when it was 61?
I hadn't
And
heard
so
that
this is-
number of 49.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
this is my
problem.
question. So right now, I'm with Adam, it seems like we're trying to put the cart in front of the horse. Like, we can't make a decision in my mind to
I think-
say we're gonna,
I think the 39 before they did the potholing, right? They had some that were unknown that
but
they
there
said
were,
in this.
yeah, so there's, on this back in
The ridge up.
April of '24 is saying that there were 61 known, right? And then it's saying that there are 171 suspected. So out of what they've potholed so far, I would think it would be the suspected ones that they've potholed. So now it's
Maybe
the 39 on top
So
of the.
that's why I'm waiting for the final report.
Right, so we get the numbers, but to Adam's point, we have always been able to obtain engineers' estimates on what should cost to replace X, Y, and Z. So if it's a road crossing, it should be this. If it's just from the B box into the home, it should be that. If it's a bore versus you're gonna split the pipe, so there's all kinds of options, and those were all laid out in this proposal.
So just to simplify it, the long and the short, that's what you're talking about when you're going on if you're on the short side. So usually the water main is not in the road. Sometimes it is, but it's usually one side or the other. So if you're a long service, that means you're coming across the road typically. If you're a short service, guess what? The water main's probably within the curb line or right on your side. It's a much shorter distance. So that's the cost difference. So you may be 8 to 10,000 on a short, and you may be 12 to 15 on a long. So those are the ballpark numbers for the costs. And, I guess if we have to do something more for you guys as far as, getting more detailed with, like, where are these addresses, where are these 49 locations, or whatever that exact number is, and telling you, okay, well, this is, the house is 20 feet further, it's a longer shot, it costs a little more, that type of stuff. So is that what you guys are looking for?
I have a question. So for somebody that has insurance on their piping, right, if there's an emergency, would having to do this and having a mandate, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
She's
what their
shaking her
insurance-
head.
I don't believe it.
Okay.
It covers. They were trying to sell specific, like, lead service line insurance a while ago, but I don't know if it was legitimate or not, and I do believe a lot of people, if it was, thought it was not legitimate. So I do not think this is the same sort of coverage.
The biggest thing about that insurance, and this is not my expert opinion, because I'm pretty sure this is just thinking about the obviousness about it, is that it's a pre-existing condition, and insurance would not cover pre-existing conditions because lead services are old. So they're gonna know that, okay, this is something from the 50s or the 40s or 30s or whatever. They're not gonna cover a pre-existing condition, so.
Question.
Bill?
You inferred that when we do Main Street, we have to replace those lines because we're disturbing them?
Yeah, we're opening up the street, and it's a large
Will that
project.
money be paid for out of the loan for doing Main Street?
I believe it is part of the grant.
So that takes a
of
bunch of
those.
them out of the picture.
I think
for
it's
the-
6 is the number I heard, but I can't say that till we get the report. 7.
Only 7?
There are 7 lead service lines on Main Street,
Okay.
and it's included in the project cost under the water
I
side.
thought it was significantly higher, but.
But
Okay.
those are the known, there's a whole bunch of suspected ones. So have those been
Well,
potholed already?
so on Main
Okay.
Street, those are the only ones I identified.
Okay.
There's nothing else that we're aware of on Main Street.
Rick,
Those
should-
still will come
Yeah.
from the water fund.
There's
So
like
I think the
28,
question
there's
before
like
us is-
28 that are
was
suspected, so
talking
that's
to
why I was
each other.
asking.
Alderman Whitecott, you have the floor.
I think the question before us right now is, we've got a budget coming up, and we've got about 10 years to accomplish this. So what do we want to set aside in this coming budget to start addressing, the possibility of doing 70, 80 lines? $80, $100,000, if we could find it in this year's budget?
I was hoping we'd start with 75,000 this
Just
year.
move
That would
along
take
and-
care of the ones on Main Street, and then hopefully we'd roll it every year and we'd be able to take a bite out of it. And then you know, if we decided that we could cover all of it,
You're
great.
right, irregardless of which way we go, which split we decide with, we've gotta start planning for this 10-year cycle to coming up, so.
Yeah, you're gonna, once you get to the point where 2027 comes around, you have to, that's when you're mandated, that's the key word. So right now, this year and next year, this is bonus time. You guys can take a bite out of that and help out and do what, you know, you feel is comfortable on your budget side. When 2027 comes around, whatever lead service lines remain, you have to budget that out on a yearly basis over those 10 years to get it done, to finish it. So, it's good to spread it out because of two things. One, it doesn't cause a lot of strain on your budget. And two, if there do become grant opportunities somewhere down the road, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down, and we don't know what's gonna happen, like Jeff mentioned, it gives you that opportunity to get that grant, to cover those future ones, because anything you've already done, that's off.
Yep, that's it.
Alderman Cranbrink.
Kurt, to answer your question, yes, better numbers would be helpful. So I think that didn't get answered. But I did have a question. So it goes from 2027 as the starting point, and then this schedule cascades out to 2040, 13 years. Is there a buffer of protection in
So
there?
I think 2027 is the plans required, and they keep extending out the 10-year time frame for us.
Because there's not a footnote or anything like that that identifies anything, so I just didn't know why it was put into the schedule.
It's
And
the
it-
government, it's vague.
And it's basically saying right now that we have to do 17 a year. To stay
That's,
afloat based upon
that's the
200
170 number,
the 232.
or, yeah, well, yeah, if you do it that way,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so
But they, but
I
they
think there's
think worst
20,
case scenario.
and I think there's 29 suspected services on Main Street, so hopefully those have all been proofed to not need it. I would hope
Yes.
that would have been our starting point for this.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Like I
it's
said.
2027, Fred, is where the plans have to be sent in. They need an
Okay.
assessment period. There's conversation downstate about funding, which with the state being, they're $1 billion in the hole. I don't see them providing funding for that. And then the plan should start at 2030 to 2040. So that's the time frame. And it was earlier, they keep extending it, so.
Yeah,
That's what-
and to go with, if we don't pay the IEPA loans, those state that if we get loan dollars, then we have to pay for it, does it not? I've read that in 2 documents.
We
I-
haven't- we haven't
IEPA
applied for
loans,
them.
yes.
Yeah. But we haven't applied for those types of loans.
We would have to pay 100% of that. So
Yes.
I think it all comes down to funding what's available, what's not available,
Correct.
and then where we grade out.
Yes, and those IEPA loans are low-interest loans, and
Right.
sometimes are principal forgiveness even, you can get those. I mean, we just need to see what those options are,
Sure.
and we can't see the future.
Yeah,
And
no, I mean, I think it's great that we're talking about it, but
Yeah.
we need just a little bit more information, you know, to make a more informed decision, because this would come out of the enterprise funds, and we're just now starting to get that momentum moving, and there is some funding in there currently.
Yep. No,
for
I hear you,
this.
and
So,
trust
I
me, we
mean-
are doing what we can to figure those things out, and there are a lot of communities that are having the same problem, trying to figure out these things and get the right funding, because IEPA is putting a lot of pressure on these communities.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So far, we have not qualified for loan forgiveness because our per capita under the census is too high.
Yep, that's one of
We're,
them.
I think, at $73,000 is what the census reports as our per capita. So that's why we don't qualify. Okay, other questions on that baseline?
Mr. Mayor?
Bill, yes, you're the chair of,
Yeah.
liaison of water, are you not?
Yeah, so, Kurt, I can attest to the 12.5 average. I hear that all the time from plenty of people. What I haven't heard is how many communities are splitting it out or paying for it themselves, or do you have any input on that? Because I don't have any from anybody really.
So there are communities that, such as Elgin, that have a lot of lead service lines, and they are getting, they're getting loans, they're getting grants, and they're getting these things taken care of. I don't know, as far as homeowners being responsible, I would have to research that more to see if communities are going that route. Yeah, And it depends on how many we're talking about service-wise. 'cause
Yeah, and I'm not.
Elgin is pretty bad. They've
I'm not
got
trying to put you on the
hundreds and
spot
hundreds and
either. I was
hundreds
just
and
curious
hundreds.
if you had any input on it, because I have not really heard.
No, it's, I'd have to do some more research on that. It's pretty vague. People aren't really going out and advertising that.
Yeah, yeah, I would suspect that too.
So
Thank
do you follow the AWWA stuff, right? Isn't that the American Water Works?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they put anything out, but I've not seen anything. Cassandra's got a comment.
I have been looking into this, and I'd say I'm pretty close to like 50-50, that there are a lot more municipalities, I was pretty shocked, that are saying that they're just paying for all of it. And then there are quite a few that are doing like a shared, and then I did see a couple, I can't remember what ones right now, but they're kind of have a scholarship kind of program where the people that need it the most can apply for funding to various levels to have the city contribute. So
Did you find that through an AWA site or?
no, I just started reading people's codes.
Yeah,
Didn't charge you for it. This was my own information I wanted to know.
well, thank you for that.
So, but yeah, so I can, I have that I can look up, but there's lots of different ways that people are doing it.
Yeah, so I think it's good we can continue the conversation and wait and see what our superintendent of water comes back with. Because I did ask him to check with other communities, and they may be having similar conversations, right, without voting on anything yet. We need the study to come back for us, and that tells us our numbers. In the meantime, it doesn't hurt to put something into the budget to be proactive, so. All right, other comments on lead service lines? Okay, we're gonna move on to item C, that is the discussion of utility late fee, which is actually the sewer water billing. Floor is open for council comments or discussion.
Yep,
Yes,
gotcha.
Alderman Rodet?
Okay, what I did earlier today is I went to our post office and I handed all you guys something that is posted right on the door. If you guys want a copy, I can show you. What it says is all delivery dates are estimated unless you use Priority Express. That's their only guarantee. So the problem I have is Alderman Robinson had spoken that he had gotten his previous couple bills after they were actually due. And if our post office is actually telling us they aren't going to deliver the mail when they should be delivering the mail, I don't know how we look at our residents and say, you're gonna pay a late fee when the federal government can't even get the mail there on time. I don't think it's fair to our residents. So I honestly think we really need to look at this, whether it's a graduated scale. You know, if somebody hasn't missed their bill in 20 years and they don't get their bill on time, you know, first time forgiveness. The second time you're getting a X amount of late fee, third time you're getting this fee. But I don't think it's fair when our own post office puts that on their front door stating they are not going to get the mail to us expeditiously to start handing out fees to people that aren't getting their stuff on time. It's not Denise's fault they aren't getting them on time. It's not of any of our fault they aren't getting the bills on time. And it's not their fault.
Okay, other comments?
What do you propose then?
I propose a graduated scale. If you
And a
have some,
first-time forgiveness.
yeah, first-time forgiveness. You have somebody that the second time they miss it, it's X amount of fee, and we go on from there.
Well, you still have, the third time their mail is late, you still put them in the same situation.
But the thing is, we at least give them a get out of jail free the first time. And it shows that that time it happened. If they come in the next time and state, hey, it was late again, we can't look at everybody in this town and say you're paying this on time when the post office says they can't even get it there on time.
I agree with that, yeah. I think we should drop it maybe down to 10% from 20.
What about the people that are constantly late? And it's not due to not getting the bill? What do we do about them?
I mean, I've talked to Denise earlier, we have a history of people in town that have paid constantly late. And that's prior, I mean, because it's only been the last few months that this little sticker has gone up on the door of the post office, stating that they're even having issues. So as a city, we have a living history of all this, don't we?
Can I speak?
Absolutely. Have you ever stopped anyone?
When people complain about the late charges, we encourage them to start paying online, to try to avoid the post office situation. It is getting worse. Over Christmas, we received payments 3 weeks later. It's not, I agree, it's not fair. And today's society is going to online payments, and they're instant. We have two means. We have front desk, where the residents can actually monitor their accounts, and we have e-pay, which is a one-time payment.
Is there also auto pay?
And there's auto pay, yes.
There's also payment plans, as you see in the back of your handout, so people also can have a payment plan to get caught up.
Denise, are they able to receive their bill electronically?
Email.
Through front desk, they can,
But they have to sign up for it?
yes.
Okay. I mean, that would,
And unfortunately, we've run into it too with, when people do online banking, they say that it's 10 business days to get it in. So we had people who paid bills on December 23rd, but we didn't get them till January 8th or 9th, and that was still less than 10 business days. So from the post office perspective, it's kind of like, and even the bank's perspective, it's within those 10 days. But they were late for us. So it's one of those that, just because of the way the holidays fell, we had I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday or Wednesday, Thursday, so we had 4 days in 10 that were holidays, or we only had 4 business days in 2 weeks. So it's
So did we
it's
charge
tricky.
them late fees?
Yeah, we had to. I mean, we don't, right now, that's what the policy has been.
That doesn't quite seem right. If they did it
Well-
on time, but we didn't get it.
If they could show that it was done on time, then
Okay, but
I think the disconnect is that they send a request into their bank for a payment, and their bank doesn't pay it when they ask them to. They have a time frame. I don't think that's the city's fault. I've told people, then you need to go back and talk to your bank, because your bank's not doing you the service of paying your bills on time. It's not the city's policy that you get paid 10 days later after you put in your pay request. That's you as, then maybe you should have put yours another 10 days earlier than what was due. Because that's the calls that I got as well. You know, I told my bank to pay it, and my bank didn't. Well, that's not the city's fault, and that's not the city's responsibility. That goes back to the individual. Thank you. Alderman Kreinbrink?
Denise, our current computer system, it doesn't allow you to do that tracking, correct? So this would be a manual tracking if you did a graduated approach?
The software is limited to the information. Now, like through the front desk program, we can access and see when they make their payments. We've had people say, well, I was never notified, and we can look on that, through that software and say, yeah, you logged into your email on such and such a day and you looked at the bill. I mean, it's logged that way.
Right. And is there a $2 fee or something for that? There was a fee at one point.
There's a, what, 2.5% service fee now?
I believe it's a 2.5 or 2.75%
Right.
fee for the credit card use.
Right, but wasn't there something for the online too? Wasn't there a fee of like $2 or something?
Through front desk, it's the same cost
Okay.
as a credit card. Now, whatever the charge is through their bank, we wouldn't see that.
And then based upon the report that you presented to us a few days ago, are you seeing fewer late charges now than you did before, knowing that there's, I mean, you're still
No, we're
getting
seeing
them?
more.
And is it because of the economic times that we're currently in, or, I mean,
I believe so. It's
Fred?
been increasing.
in all honesty,
Gradually.
I think we need to get a little bit more data underneath our belt to make an informed decision. That would be my perspective, versus just arbitrarily changing this. The other thing to keep in mind is that, once again, the budget takes into consideration some of these late fees and that sort of thing for cash flow, right? Money coming in, and also the late fees that we're capturing. Our goal is to not have any late fees. I mean, that's what we don't want to have. We want everybody to pay their bills. We want to be able to do that, but it's not always feasible.
Well, this whole discussion revolved around trying to have an incentive for people to pay on time.
Right.
This was never meant to derive money.
Yeah, and
for
right off the
people.
bat, I mean, some of our most, how should I say it, timely, punctuant, everything like that, individuals ran into an event that occurred, whether it was postage or their bank or whatever. And I go with what the mayor says, if you have anybody that's having these fees and it's due to their bank because they're not processing fast enough, call the bank. 99% of the time, they'll reverse that fee.
So I'd say keep in mind, I believe there's 2,600 water services that exist in the city. We're talking about 35 people that were late and 17 people that were on a payment plan. And I believe some of these people are the same names I've seen before, so for what that's worth.
That's one of the three billing cycles,
Right.
correct?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it doesn't always get higher or lower. Sometimes it seems like it's very consistent, so. All right, other comments about utility late fees or recommendations?
Yeah, the only thing I seriously would consider giving Denise the option of giving a one-time forgiveness to people. Also, my theory on the credit cards, we should promote that usage and we probably should waive those fees because we saved money on the back end anyway because we're not processing a paper check and doing all this other stuff. So if we push it, remove the fees, maybe more people will sign up and use credit cards and then that accomplishes what you're trying to do anyway.
I think you need to see how much the credit cards cost first. You might be surprised. Okay, other comments?
Can I add one more thing? Most of the communities that used to cover the service fee for their customers are all reversing and passing that on. They found, ask Plano.
Speaker.
We take them at our work, so I know exactly what it costs. Sometimes that's,
Yeah.
you know, it's built into cost of doing business.
Okay. All right, last item is D, that's discussion of possible change to Article 5, Section 54 of the mobile food vendor. So as you know, in the previous meetings, Clerk E has brought up some complaints that she's received about stationary mobile food vendors. And I don't know if she wants to add a little bit more to that from our previous conversations, but she brought that before council to see if you wanted to make any corrections or changes to the ordinance to maybe curtail some of the permanent mobile food vendors and keep it more mobile for smaller special events. Denise?
The only thing excuse me, I want to add to what I've talked to in the past is I did some research and I feel the wrong license has been issued. We're talking mobile food trucks, mobility. You know, you're in one corner one day and next week you're at another. Under the hawkers, you can be permanently set, but you also have that same availability of saying going to the fair. You still have some flexibility, some mobility. If I'm reading both of these correct, it does require licensing, whether it's a hawkers or whether it's a food vendor. And it also, your landlord, you have a landlord if you are permanently fixed, and the ordinance requires that we have that information too. I know there's a rumor out there that we're chasing the coffee shop out of town. We are not. We're simply saying, I believe it's the wrong license that has been issued, but that's a council decision. And I've forwarded ordinances to support my findings, but it's up to you guys.
I read the ordinance, I agree with you 100% that they should be under the hawker ordinance.
Other comments or recommendations from council?
I had the same comment. I would not have spotted that myself, so thank you for catching it, but to me, that's exactly how it reads. Neither here nor there, I guess, but that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I mean, one solution would be just simply say, we're only gonna approve these for small events that you come in and get your one-time license. That's it, there's no long-term annual license. That'd be one solution. That was on one of the other communities' ordinance. So, up to you to decide what you wanna do. I know that, yes, Ed?
I definitely have something to say.
Okay.
Okay, first and foremost, as city council, we weren't out headhunting because almost all of us up here are for small business, and that's what a small food truck is. In 1963, there was a small business that started in Villa Park. Had Villa Park done then what's being asked of us today, Portillo's wouldn't have grown to be the successful brick and mortar business it is today. The thing is all small businesses have to start somewhere. And as a city, whether it becomes us asking one that's stationary, are you gonna pay a little bigger fee? Yes, we can look at that. But other than that, I think it comes down to our code enforcement officer going out to check to see, do you have the proper permit? It comes down to our police department going and checking, are you licensed if you were to hook up to this trailer, or is this food truck licensed to be on the road today? And I think that's what it is. A year ago, or May, whatever, we passed this ordinance. And I, for one, am not in favor of changing something we just did to force people into something that we asked them to do. If there was annual permit on there for $100, then there's an annual permit for $100. If we want to change it to where one's stationary and we discuss something else, then that's what we do. But if we have people that are already following this, it shouldn't be shame on them for following what we asked them to do. And that's where I stand.
Okay. Other council members? Attorney, I see you grab your microphone.
I guess, I think the thing is that when you look at what we put forth, and then when you look at what, you know, Denise proposed, that the idea was the truck that's driving around going from, and, you know, we passed it because we wanted to make it something so people could do here. And I don't believe at that time it was contemplated, and we actually did specifically discuss that we didn't want it, you know, like permanently out front of that one Vines, right? Because we didn't want to take away from some of the brick and mortar. So I do remember, like, that was specifically a discussion, is that we didn't want it to be permanent, because, you know, people are wanting to set up, you know, tables and things like that. So, and obviously you guys can do what you want, but I do not think that that was what we intended. And so that was where the whole maybe not the right license. There are some municipalities that specifically differentiate between fixed point mobile food licenses and then just mobile food licenses. So the fixed point is in a lot of places differentiated.
Well, would you agree that they fit under that hawker? Are you familiar with it?
I
Enough to
did
say?
look at that. I just wanted to check one other thing. That's what I was looking up, because I want to say yes, but I want to double check something.
Well, while we're talking about that, what hawker's license do we have out in the city? None?
We don't.
We don't have any
Do you have
license.
any hawkers licenses?
I'm sorry?
How many hawker licenses has the city issued?
When it was first passed, we had close to 10. And then it just kind of faded away. The hawkers also included your corn food stand, Swanson's, and Larry Phillips, the pumpkins, and your food stands. We also had a hot dog stand back in the time.
Phil, did you have something to say?
Yeah, if I may, I just, it feels to me like what we're really discussing here is whether something is in a permanent situation or not, whether it might take away from, you know, your brick and mortar business. In my opinion, I'm assuming that's what it is. That's what it feels like to me anyway. And so if that's our concern, then I think it's legitimate. We should have full discussions. Otherwise, I'm with Adam. I prefer not to tear something apart we just came up with. I'm not opposed to either. I just want to make sure I'm understanding why this is such an issue at this point.
I think it's because we received complaints, some of them operating all night or being there permanently. That's
And
why
there,
it came up.
was there a complaint that they were permanent, or was it
I didn't get to the complaints, those were
I
to the
think
clerk.
what you said, wasn't it that, not to interrupt you there, Denise, but wasn't it that there was a generator running all night?
Yeah, I thought it was a noise thing, and wouldn't
Yeah.
that be, oh, so it's
There-
overnight?
Yeah.
Okay, all
That would
right.
be a code violation.
Code
Right,
violation.
so to me, that's a code violation, but overnight, I guess I can see the difference there. I thought it was just a noise issue, and I'm like, if it's a noise issue, isn't it noisy the whole time? But
Right.
overnight, I understand, I guess, so.
Both of these are overnight, and the one, I've got complaints on both of them.
Yeah,
But the one is the noise with the generator.
generator, yeah, which they're
Yes.
using for, you would assume for refrigeration or whatever, so, okay.
And isn't the one that's permanent, isn't it closed in the winter?
It's closed now.
It's closed. So it's not even being used, it's just on private property right now, closed. So I don't feel we should be charging them something if they're not using it, they're on private property.
The
And I
other
looked at
one
me,
is
but I didn't take
also,
the complaint, I don't know the details, so. I
the
just
other one is
brought it to
also on
council.
private property as far as I'm aware, so
But that was the one with the noise complaint.
Still,
So
again,
we
code
gotta do
enforcement.
ordinance. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. is code
And then there was
enforcement needs to
also
be
the
involved.
question on the taxes being paid. So there was the taxes, the noise, and then the permanent versus mobile.
Yeah, they were required by the municipal code to make sure that they pay their sales tax and that there's proof of it. So it says all sales by a mobile vendor are subject to the sales and use tax to occur within the city must be reported. And the requirement of payment to the state of Illinois applicable municipal taxes must be identified to the system, to the city as the point of sale.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the taxes were being paid. Otherwise,
Oh.
I got a problem.
Yeah, you'd have to ask the collector because that would come through our revenue. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to see that either.
Was that the case, Denise? They were both paying their taxes?
I'm still trying to get additional information from the state. The one is paying taxes, the other is not, best I've been able to ascertain. But the state, you can't talk to them, you have to email them, and then you wait.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the mobile food truck? Okay. I don't know that we have any direction from the conversation, but maybe I think everyone needs to take a look at the hawkers if you haven't, and we'll figure it out from there. Rick, did you have something you want to say? Okay.
And just to confirm, I do think this probably is. It doesn't specifically get into the whole making and stuff, but I think that it could be applicable.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. This is item A, the discussion of possible award to Hampton, Lenzini, and Renwick, a professional service agreement for the Main Street project in amount not to exceed $591,888. This is part of the Main Street program. So that is before council to award that. Jeff, any comments on that?
Just that we did go through a qualifications-based selection. We had two proposals, one from EEI, one from HLR. It was reviewed by myself and our street superintendent, and then also had the mayor and a couple others take a look at it too, just to get everybody's opinion. There is a sheet in that was passed out that showed the scoring. There's a rubric you fill out based on their proposal, and then the top one is the one that you make the recommendation with. So that's how it was selected. This is the price that came back.
All right, so there's no action on this. It'll have to take place on the regular council meeting
Correct.
under
Did
item
you have
A.
any comments?
It's just for any discussion that the council might have or questions. Okay, here are then announcements. Jeff, you have any announcements?
Just that we have adjudication on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And then our budget meeting tomorrow afternoon, 4:30, with the budget committee.
Okay. Okay, audience comments. Dr. Phyllis Wellington, you may please come up. You'll have your 5 minutes as a max.
I would just like the council to know that we still have not heard anything from your insurance company, other than the letter which I forwarded to one of the older women at her request, and be advised that none of the other businesses on Main Street received that letter, just us. So that's a little disconcerting. We have forwarded to our attorneys and our insurance company, and they are proceeding, I would assume, with subrogation, but we have paid the bills, yeah. The next thing is we have, it's over in front of Aisling, and it's been there for a while, medical center. We have a Fit to Farm, it's a nonprofit, and we have had our firewood and money back stolen the last 3 weeks. Again, this is a nonprofit. We donate all the money earned from the veggies and the firewood to the scholarship for the kids. So I don't know what's going on, but it's getting, yeah, we had the same problem last year, and apparently the gentleman who was doing it was apprehended when the firewood stand up by the storage unit. He sat out all night and got him, the guy, the cook over at the golf course, but we have a new one that's coming up. And I would just like to say, being a resident of Sandwich, I've lived here a little over 4 years, I have never had a problem in my bills being paid late. Just so that you know, the city of Rockford doesn't even send bills out. If you want a bill sent out, they charge you $10. You have to go to their website and download it. And if you want it sent out to you, you must pay $10. And if you're late, there is no forgiveness whatsoever. They will shut your water off within 10 days after the second notice. So I'm a little concerned that we keep having this discussion. We know when the bills come out. It comes out every quarter. If you're not sure when it's going to be, I'm sure you can contact City Hall and they'll be more than happy to tell you what your bill is. I just don't understand. Yes, it is a lot, but chasing money is even more expensive. So I don't understand why we're having this conversation about so-and-so got the bill late. I've never, and I get my bills mailed, and I pay it online. I've never had a problem. That's just from one citizen that lives in the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other individuals wish to make a public comment? Okay. As our motion adjourned, the committee.
Sorry, sir, one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Did you fill out a slip so we know who you are for the public record? That's over on the other side. Is there one up there, Tony?
Oh, okay.
I don't think we have an online process.
This is, yeah. She did send it through the website saying she wanted to speak.
Right,
But
but we usually have it
typically, we
paper.
have everybody fill it out once they get here.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. Will you please address your comments to me as the mayor and chair?
Alrighty, Mr. Mayor and respected members of the City Council, thank you for taking your time to hear me tonight. My name is Tiffany Foster, and my husband Colton's here. Some of your conversation on the food truck already addressed some of my concerns, so I appreciate that and you taking the time to do that. I own the Hinckley Coffee House, and just wanted to take a moment to clarify some of the concerns that have been voiced. We are currently under the mobile food license, which I believe we are, that's what we currently are under. So I'll just address these. We are not yet open for the season, so therefore we have not been operating on an expired license. We'll be obtaining our 2025 permit with the city as we prepare to open for this season. We are registered with the Illinois Department of Revenue as being located in Sandwich for sales tax purposes. Our trailer is hardwired to an electric service, and we do not use a generator. Our equipment requires 220 volts and draws nearly 100 amps. This is the equivalent of most homes. Our trailer was not built with a generator in mind at all. We comply with all food established requirements set forth by the DeKalb County Health Department. In order to outfit the site that we park at, we had to front money for the electrical work and sign a multi-year lease to offset the rest of the work that was done to the site. The site was secured before our trailer was purchased or outfitted, and local ordinances were researched to ensure that all guidelines were met prior to opening this location. We don't feel that we are specifically being targeted, but wanted to just bring light to how changes to the ordinance could affect our business and push us out of Sandwich. We believe our business adds value to the Sandwich community and encourages customers from within the city and surrounding towns to shop local, supporting our business and others. We took it upon ourselves to solicit public opinion on this topic in the form of an online petition, and in only 6 days received over 1,000 signatures and an outpouring of supportive messages for our business. I have the link to that if anyone would like it emailed to them. It has the petition, but for the sake of time, I will not read it now. Last season, we employed 12 baristas between our location in Hinckley and our location in Sandwich. We want to see them be able to come back to their jobs this spring and continue to serve the community with the excellence and enthusiasm we saw them display last season. We've loved being part of this great community and hope to continue to do business here for years to come. We hope to see this city's decision on this supporting the growth of businesses, as you've stated your interest in doing. So as a working mother of 4, I would just ask you to reconsider amending the food truck ordinance and hindering our business that provides for my family and that of my staff and makes a positive impact on the community. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anyone else wish to make a public comment? Would you fill out the form, please?
I will, yeah. I don't want to hold you up, but I will give one to the chief. I just wanted to echo what Tiffany said, because I did follow that line of comments on social media, and it did seem very much in the favor of their particular business. The one thing I just want to say is I think going back to the hawker's license, without even like pulling all the information in from the hawker's license ordinance or whatever that is, a law or public ordinance, I think that if you could just get some kind of an understanding of whether or not they have a lease, a legitimate lease or agreement with the landowner, and they're not running generators at 2 a.m, then that seems like an amicable arrangement to be able to either modify the hawkers to just say, you know, Sandwich wants your lease, just to verify you have something in place, or to make sure that they have an agreement for the time that they're open, like during their season, if it's a seasonal. So I do think that what Adam said is very important, because we have lots of businesses that start from the roots, and we don't want to diminish that. So just wanted to say that the comments on social media were very positive towards this particular business. I don't know about the other one, but thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting?
I'll second.
Alderwoman Johnson, second by Alderman Erickson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?